Good day, everyone. My name is Lin Huynh. I'm the founder and host of Fan to Fame. We're here today with University of Virginia Cavalier legend and current professional basketball star, Akil Mitchell. How you doing, Akil?
What's up, my man? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I appreciate your time. I've definitely followed you for a very long time. Being from Virginia, whether you're a UVA fan or not, your name and your face pops up when I think about college basketball, and specifically UVA. So it's a blessing to talk to you, man.
Word, man. That's a blessing to have such an honor, man. I appreciate it.
Right before we hopped on here, we kind of connected about some folks that we know. I think it's always a small world, which is awesome,
Yeah.
which leads to, growing up in Charlotte. A good friend of mine, Blake Smith from Charlotte. How was it growing up in Charlotte, North Carolina, which grooms a lot of ball players? How was your experience growing up, and how did basketball start for you?
Yeah, basketball kind of runs in the blood, man. My brother plays, cousins, uncles. My dad played a lot. So, we were out in the park, from as long as I can remember hooping. And like you said, man, it's Charlotte. Charlotte breeds hoopers. Like that's kind of what we do. High school, I played with the Curry brothers. Anthony Gill is with the Wizards now. Was a high school teammate. Some really good players, a ton of talent that came to that area. So we literally would just go to the park and to the YMCA during the winters and just hoop. I would play against grown men, play against older kids. Like we would just hoop all day. So that was kind of my thing. And as you can see, like stuck to it and been doing it ever since.
I should have moved down to Charlotte. I'm kind of mad at my parents for not doing that because I think it's genetics, but I think it might have helped because everyone I know from Charlotte is tall. So I think that would might have helped me a little bit. But
Hey, man, Steph is little. Steph is a little dude.
That's true. He's a little dude, but he doesn't play like it. Speaking of Steph, like, what do you recall playing with Steph? What are some memories?
Actually, I missed Steph by a year, but I did play for a season with Seth.
Okay.
And what's funny is we used to work out in the summers and like they would just knock down shots, of course, but they were so small, nobody really gave them a chance to do much.
Right.
Year that I remember, Seth had more game. Like Seth was probably a bit better ball handler, could get his shot off a little bit better. I think he was a little bit bigger at the time. So everybody thought Seth would be a little bit better, but both of them ended up going to small schools.
Yeah.
And I remember like sitting in the cafeteria one day and watching the run Steph went on with Davidson in the NCAA tournament. Like this is the first time I ever like sat down and realized like, yo, he might go to the NBA.
Yeah.
And enough he did. And again, it was the same thing. Like, man, he's kind of small. I don't really know. Like, I'm just happy that he's in the NBA. But again, he just kept taking steps in his career, and now he's, arguably the best player in the NBA. It's crazy, man.
When you reflect back that time, even though you didn't play with Steph, but you played more with Steph, is it really a big surprise to you how much they progressed? Like for me, when I think about some folks back in my hometown, there's some guys I'm like, man, they should be on TV right now. Where there's certain guys who's actually making it, and kudos to them. I'm rooting for them, but it's kind of a shocker to me. Do you feel the same way about those two?
Yeah, a little bit, and that's no knock on them either, right?
Right.
Like, of course, like I've always rooted for them, stay in touch with both of them, but nobody could have seen what they would do.
Right.
Honestly, like I think work ethic has a lot to do with that. Their faith in themselves, faith in their progress. It speaks a lot, man. It's really motivational because to see where those guys started and to see that now is amazing. Like you said, I knew guys who should have been first round draft picks, right? They had every talent in the world, but neither one of those guys let the things that set them back stay a setback, right? Like they kind of used it to tell them and to motivate them to keep pushing. So, man, if you know anything about their stories, both of them, Seth and Steph, like tap in because those two guys are amazing, man.
Yeah, that's cool to get your insight on that, especially for someone who's, you've seen the development through the younger years to where they're at now. So that's really cool to hear. Going back to you though, so from my understanding, you're lightly recruited out of high school. I mean, you went to UVA, which is huge, but from my understanding, I think the only other offers you got were, I think, from Navy and George Washington. How was that experience for you? How challenging was that, just trying to get that recognition, that spotlight, especially from an area where there's a lot of talent coming out?
Yeah, I think part of that was because there was so much talent. There's just a lot of competition. I had a lot of smaller schools, actually, you know, College of Charleston,
Okay.
Charleston. Those schools kind of came on later, but I was a late bloomer. I was a really late bloomer. I didn't make a team until my 10th grade year of high school.
Oh, wow.
Even then, I was 6'5", still kind of raw, still really raw and athletic. So I didn't really get offers until my senior year. But, you know, the talent was starting to show. And I always had faith in myself. Like I said, I just watched Seth and watched Steph do what they were doing. So I knew that, you know, if I kept working hard, like my chances would come. Like I realized that I was, you know, at that point about 6'6", 6'7", long arms. I knew I could play. So it wasn't really I knew it was a challenge, but
Right.
I was so focused. Like nothing was really going to knock me off of trying to get to the D1 level. My mom used to make fun of me because I would sit and I listed out every Division I school in the country. And I marked off all the schools that I was like, nah, I probably won't go there. And I circled all the schools I wanted to go to. And then I clipped up film and I wrote up letters, my own letters, and I sent them to every one of those schools.
Oh, wow.
Got no answers back, but it was just like that was where my focus was, right? Like it was just that there was no other option for me, right? And I think, you know, sometimes the universe responds to that, and ended up at UVA, which was, like you said, which was huge for me, which was a big blessing.
Man, that's awesome to hear, because I've actually kind of had that conversation with some folks I've interviewed in the past, is that, you know, back when some of the folks I interviewed in the past had played, social media wasn't around. It wasn't as big. So I think nowadays it's a little bit easier reaching out to coaches, where before you needed to film, a recruiter had to be there, or a scout. But nowadays you can kind of be proactive yourself, whether you're from a small town, from a city, you have the accessibility. So you to actually do that, that's awesome. I commend you for that. And that's really cool to hear. Was UVA one of the schools that you reached out to?
Actually, it wasn't. UVA, I think, was like the only school in the ACC that I don't know anything about this school. I don't really care about it, but it's in the ACC. Like
right.
I was focused at the time. I wanted to go to Georgetown. I wanted to go to Maryland. I have a lot of family in the area. So Georgetown and Maryland were like my top two picks. And then GW, George Washington, ended up coming on early.
Okay.
And so they offered me the scholarship. And I went on a visit, went up, I met the coaches, met everybody. Second day of the visit, I sit down in the coach's office and he pulls my offer. He's like, Akil, I just don't think you're the right guy. So I have to pull your offer. And I remember sitting there with my dad, and my dad was heated. My dad was like, oh, yeah. And I was just sitting there like, kind of, okay, that's cool. We'll move on to the next one.
Right.
And not long after that, UVA started calling. UVA called, and I took the chance and jumped on it, man.
I know they're beating themselves over that. But it just shows, I like what you said, you didn't really let it get down to too much. It's one of the things where things happen, and you can be petty all you want and think about why not or why me, but you just kind of move forward and say, all right, on to the next one. I'm gonna prove them wrong. So I like how you kind of mentioned that.
Gotta keep it pushing, man.
Yeah, definitely. So during your freshman year, you definitely got some playing time. The team, you guys went, I think, 16-15. Sophomore year, end up becoming a starter. You guys went 22-10, made it to the tournament. I think it had been like 5 years since UVA had made it. And then your senior year, you guys really took it to the next level, where you guys not only made it to the tournament, but earned top seed. Can you talk about the transition of, as a freshman to a senior individually, but also as a team, how it grew? What was the factor that really blossomed the team to take it to the next level as it did throughout those years?
We had a lot of growing pains, man. That's all it was, really. That was Coach Bennett's. We were Coach Bennett's first class. We had 7 guys actually, and Kalani Rogers, her husband now was our walk-on at that point, Thomas Rogers. And so if you include him, we had 7 guys in that first class, and everyone left but me, Thomas, and Joe Harris. So the 3 of us kind of stuck it out. But, we had a lot of growing pains. We had guys who didn't want to buy into the system. We had guys who, had to learn how to play for Coach Bennett. Coach Bennett had to learn how to coach us and how to win games in the ACC. Right? But I think you could see every year not only was I getting stronger and older and better at basketball, but all of us were. And coach learning the ACC, and we really all did it together. And that was the amazing part, right? Like we did that as a group. And that's something that we all are really proud of today. Anytime I see anybody from that coaching staff, over those 4 years, I think you can kind of start to see every year, even we had setbacks or injuries or whatever else, but you can see, okay, we're taking another step. We're taking another step to the point where now we have enough talent to become a 1 seed, right? Malcolm Brogdon, Darion is there, Mike Tobey's there, Joe is playing great, right? Like we got a ton of talent at this point, and we just started rolling. Even my senior year, when we were that 1 seed, we had some setbacks, right? Ended up having to really come together and figure out what we wanted to do, and they haven't looked back. Haven't looked back since.
No, that's really fascinating to hear and very encouraging, I think, for anyone. And when Coach Bennett came in, I remember even for me as like someone that just watches sports, I was like, I wonder how this guy's going to be. I know he played previously as a pro. But, looking how years have gone, he has changed that whole program to another level, and you're a part of that. So when I think about UVA basketball, I definitely think about Coach Bennett, but also think about yourself, Joe Harris, Mike Scott, who are having great careers in NBA. But can you kind of maybe share some memories of Coach Bennett? Like what made him so special, and any special memories that stick out when you think of Coach?
I think one of the things that I loved about Coach Bennett was his patience, right? Like he's such an even keel, even tempered guy, but he had a fire about him. And he used to say that all the time, like you have to have a fire inside of you that burns to want to get better every day, right? Because it's a process. It takes a long time to the point that he's at. But it's the reason he's able to come in every day and get better, chip it away slowly and surely, is because he loves what he does. And that fire inside him to be the best burns every day. And it burns hotter and hotter the more success he takes. So that was the thing that I learned from Coach Bennett, right? Like you could see it when he gets mad, you could see it when he's chilling.
Right.
He's just such a competitive soul, but it comes from such a pure place, right? Like it comes from here. And that was really cool to watch and to be a part of. And like I said, as the time goes on, you just see it. Every time I watch a game, you see it. And then every year you see the guys that come in have to learn to adapt to that. And then you see guys kind of take it with them as they go to a pro career, as they advance in their careers.
Yeah, that's one thing I really enjoy watching Coach Bennett is just how composed he is during the game. But he's focused though, right? So I can imagine in the huddles, even though he seems very composed, it's kind of, it's kind of like Phil Jackson. When I used to watch, him coach, I'm like, why does this guy seem like he doesn't care? He just kind of sitting back. And I mean, he does have Michael Jordan and Pippen at the time, but just his demeanor. But like he's focused. He knows what he's looking for. The team knows what he's looking for. And that's kind of what I saw when I watched Coach Bennett. He's very composed, but definitely you can tell keeps the team focused, which is awesome to watch and see.
It's all doesn't let it show, but I promise you, he's.
Oh yeah.
Oh, if a team is scoring on us, he's burning hot inside.
Oh yeah. When you reflect about like your freshman year, the first day coming on campus, like you say, you didn't really start playing basketball till later in high school. So there was a lot of potential. I'm sure the coaches said that to you. And I'm sure you thought about yourself. There's so much potential going into your freshman year. But you look back to when you're at the senior at the time, I would say, to your first day in campus, like how much did you change and grow from day one to the day you graduated, whether it be as a student, but also as an athlete?
Oh, I think I literally grew about 2 inches from the time that I was 17. I was 17 when I got to UVA.
Yeah.
So I was already, like I said, I was a late bloomer, but I was young coming in. I think it was like that. Maybe Devin was young when he got to UVA. So like first day, I was a baby, man. I was a kid. I look at old from our freshman year, like first year on the court.
Right.
I'm like, how I ever competed at the ACC level, looking like I was a child. But again, it's the same thing. You just chip away at it over 4 years, and a part of that was Coach Curtis and the training staff, like getting us physically prepared. you know, we took our bumps and bruises in the classroom as well. And like I said, man, it's just day by day, you
Right.
start to see changes. And you know, UVA is not an easy school. It's not an easy school
Absolutely
at all.
not.
So
Right.
it's first year was growing pains. This is exactly what it was. And some guys just didn't want to put up with it and they transferred. But
Hmm.
I had a feeling, you know, I definitely thought about transferring. All of my roommates left, right?
Hmm.
So the thought, of course, crossed my mind, but I always had a feeling that if I stuck with it and just kept chipping away, like Coach Bennett always said, then, you know, good things would come out of it.
I think you touched on it a little bit earlier, but you mentioned about, you kind of stuck, like you, Joe Harris, a few other guys, you guys really stuck with what Coach Bennett was trying to envisioning moving forward. But you also just mentioned, like you said, there's a few folks that actually transferred. What was the
Yeah.
reason for it? Was it just the philosophy what Coach was trying to bring? And what was that philosophy if they weren't agreeing with it? What was the big kind of dilemma?
Yeah, I mean, everybody kind of had their own reasons. I think,
Hmm.
you know, like Billy Barron, also a, you know, 8-9 year pro at this point, playing EuroLeague, has
Yeah.
had a great, you know, there's no doubt he could play, and was actually doing pretty well in the classroom. But for him, he felt like he wanted a bigger role. I
Hmm.
think KT Pro was probably the same. Just wanted a bigger and better scoring role.
Yeah.
Some guys wanted a better pro potential, right?
Yeah.
Guys just, you know, felt homesick, right? Like Will Regan, I think, was a bit homesick,
Yep.
home and be closer to family, be closer to friends. So for everybody, it's a little different.
Yeah.
You know, and we all felt it. Everybody felt it. Joe, of course, was probably the furthest. Yeah, he definitely was the
I think it's from
furthest from home.
Washington, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so he felt it. I know he felt homesick, but like I said,
Yeah.
he stuck with it. And you know, it is what it is. Some things happen for a reason.
Right.
You know, some guys, you know, for whatever reason, just decided that that Coach Bennett's philosophy didn't fit for them. But for me, it worked.
Yep. No, evidently it did. But no, I think what you said, I think it's pretty common. It's not just you guys at the time, but it's even what's going on now. It's just like you said, when you come in, even when I was like 17, I felt like I was like an adult at that time. But when you reflect back, I was like, man, you're just a little kid. But
Yeah,
transition from a different level of playing, like I said, high school to like an ACC powerhouse, but also just being away from home. I mean, it's a lot of transition going on in that life at that young age. So
yeah.
it's different for everyone.
In 17, right? And you
Right.
feel like you're in the world, and now you have no money,
Yeah.
no, right? Like you're at the bottom of the totem pole playing
Right.
against Mike Scott, grown men, Mustafa Farrakhan, right? So you're getting beat up every day in practice, and then you go to class and you feel dumb, right? Like it's tough. It's a tough transition. It's a tough transition, but you got to be able to see the long term vision. And that's what helped me out a lot, because on days when I was like, man, I just don't know how I'm going to do it, it was always like, all right, I could leave, I could quit, but the long term vision is really what I'm striving for here. So just got to
Right.
stick it out.
No, I hear you on that. Speaking about long term, you end up making to the pros. What you're doing now, you've been, probably seems like it was like yesterday when we first started, but you've been a few years in. So kudos to
Man,
you, because that's not easy for anybody. But we talked about the transition from high school to college, but from college to the pros, I can only imagine how that's even more different. Can you
yeah.
talk about maybe your first season? I know you spent time with the Houston Rockets a little bit with the G League affiliate. Can you just talk about that transition from college to pros?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's another beast in and of itself, right? Like, kind of the same thing, man. You feel like you're on top of the world at 21, 22. Like, we just
Right.
won a championship. You know, I just graduated. My family's feeling amazing. And then I still have no money, right? Like, now I'm in the locker room, James Harden, and Dwight Howard is sitting next to me, right? Like,
Right.
I have like $100 in my bank account, right? Like, another transition you just have to make. I remember, like, in training camp, I walked in to get a lift,
Uh-huh.
and I'm working, like feeling good. And Dwight Howard walks in, he throws up like 225 on the rack and just benches it out, like does like 20 reps, throws it back up and walks. I'm like, oh man, I gotta guard this dude later. Like, this dude is an animal, and I gotta guard him. At this point, I'm just like, yo, it's a different beast. It's a different
Right.
beast. it's kind of the same thing. Spent time in the G League, and that was really eye-opening for me. That was really, really eye-opening for me because that's a different level, right? Like UVA, you kind of get stuck into this bubble where, you know, you're working with the same guys every day, and you know that the culture is there and the guys that want to be there are there, right? But the pro level is different. You got guys from literally all over the world competing to feed their families from all kind of different ages, backgrounds. And it's not a game. It's not a game anymore. You're not a kid anymore. You're not playing for fun anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got guys who have kids who have to feed their kids. And so that competition level bumps up another gear. And I think I learned pretty quickly, pretty early on, that it was it was a different level I had to take my game to.
No, absolutely. I can, like you said, after you're coming out from a very successful year at UVA and going over to the pros, and like you said, being around Dwight Howard, the guys are bigger, faster, stronger. And I mean, you're at that level too, but I'm sure, you know, it was a big transition. And going back to what I kind of mentioned earlier, you played a few years professionally. I know you kind of bounce around back and forth in the league and then overseas. Why is it so difficult to be NBA? I mean, I know like the caliber of talent is there. It's more, but I feel like for you're one of the top ACC players. So, you know, playing for a big conference like that, what is it so difficult about being an NBA? Is it more than just talent?
Yeah, it's a lot more than just talent. There's a lot of talent guys overseas. Honestly, man, I have guys overseas who are maybe some of the most talented players I've ever seen. Can score the ball at multiple levels, are big, are physical. But some of that is about getting the right opportunity. Some of that is, you know, IQ, basketball IQ, and the right fit. You know, maybe if I had been drafted by the Warriors or somebody, right? Like, what would be different. You know, sometimes it's all about opportunity. But also I play the four, and you know, and that was kind of a disappearing position thanks to my Curry brothers, right? Like the league kind of changed and shifted right when I was coming in, right? And so for a non-shooting big, it was I had to kind of evolve, right? And you know, that's kind of the way it goes. But like I said, there's so many talented guys around the world that man, the NBA is like I said, it's a different beast. It's a different beast. And I know a lot of guys too, you know, who might belong there or who don't, but you can't knock them. Can't knock them at all. They can play. They can play.
Yeah. I interviewed a really good friend of mine, Eric Green, who also played for ACC at Virginia Tech. And he said the same thing. He played a couple of years in NBA, and he was just like, hey, there's a lot of guys overseas that, you know, they could be in the league. They really want to. But a lot of guys, like you said, just being homesick, or they kind of like where things are. They stay where they're at. But there's a lot more talent. I think for just basketball in general, as a sport had just globalized, it's everywhere now. Everyone plays it. So it's not just here, right? But how would you describe the difference between playing overseas versus here in NBA? Whether it be like the level of play, like the court size, like how's it different or how's it the same?
I mean, strictly like X's and O's, the spacing is way different, right? So and overseas, the 3-point line is a little bit shorter. The NBA is, you have the extended arc, right? And because the guys are such good shooters in the NBA, the spacing in the middle of the floor and the 3 seconds in the lane is different too, right? So the spacing is a lot different. Whereas in Europe, or not even just in Europe, overseas in general, you can kind of park in the lane, right? Which makes it way more physical. Makes things a lot more physical. I remember my first year in France thinking like, yo, these dudes are playing like jailhouse basketball. Incredibly physical, but you kind of get used to it over time. And then become a man. It's from a 21-year-old to 27, 28, like your body's just so much more physically mature. And so that plays a big role in it too. But Europe is a different animal. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, some guys who are so talented, if you can score in Europe, you can score anywhere. Trust me. you can score with a 7-footer parked in the lane, and guys allowed to be way more physical on the catch and push you off your spot. Teams running double teams and stuff at you. Like you can score at any level, I promise you. But it's also, it's also the mental adjustment too, right? You see a lot of where the NBA is, every team is kind of a copycat league, right?
Right.
Every team runs similar stuff. You have similar actions. So every night you're kind of going to see more or less the same stuff. It's more about, talent. But in Europe, you're going to see everything. You're going to see everything, man. I've seen everything from boxing 1 to 2-3 zone to full court press. Like you see literally everything. All kind of coaching changes and moves. It's a big adjustment. It's a big adjustment. I know a lot of NBA guys who really don't hack it overseas too, who had solid careers overseas or in the NBA, who for whatever reason just can't deal with it.
That's really interesting. Yeah, definitely a couple of guys come to mind when you say that for sure. So yeah, that's really cool to hear the different perspective, especially for someone like you who's played at different levels. Like you said, you played in NBA, you played at G League, you played it all through Europe, but also outside of Europe as well. One thing that kind of pops out to me if I was in that position is how's that language barrier? I think fortunate for us being from the United States, English is, worldwide, but was there ever a time where that was kind of difficult? Like, how does a coach communicate with you? Did he communicate in English or did he speak German to you, or how's that work out?
No, so I'm in Germany now, but a couple of literally, I just got to Germany, and they speak great English here. The team that I started the season with in Turkey, basically no one spoke English, right? English is kind of the language of basketball, right? Like,
right.
And, you can kind of find out ball screen, pin down, right? Like you get English is basketball, right? But didn't really speak much English. Didn't really speak much English at all. So he used either use a translator or he would point and kind of, and I've run into that a couple of times. In Italy, my coach didn't really speak much English. And then, in Turkey, nobody really speaks much English. So you just learn. I always tell people like, yo, if I can figure out how to eat and how to get from point A to point B, right, then I can survive in any country on earth, right? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, man. So, over the first month or two, I just kind of pick up on words, and now it's just kind of common practice. Right? Like it doesn't really take me that long to figure out enough language to survive.
How is Germany? Like you mentioned, you pretty much just got there, but how's that experience so far?
It's been cool. It's been really nice, man. My apartment's lovely. Like I said, the people have been really nice, very, very professional. We lost my opener yesterday, 2 days ago, yesterday. I don't even remember at this point. But it's been great, man. It's been great. Some good players, a couple guys that played in the ACC. Big Martin Gabas, he played for Notre Dame. Patrick Heckman played in Boston College. Shannon Scott played at Ohio State. So some good players. We're just trying to figure it out. New coach, new system.
It's still early on.
Yeah, early.
No, that's cool. I'm glad to hear there's other Americans there, and it's pretty cool that you have some ACC folks that you probably played against. So it's cool to hear that. I'm sure you guys have memories.
all kind of trash. Oh, they remember that.
Speaking of just like playing ACC, just in general, who's I'm sure at the level you play at, whether it be NBA, G League, overseas, every night could be a test. But you being the mastermind defender that you are, who's the hardest person you've had to defend?
Hardest guy I've had to defend. Oh man, that's a tough one because I don't like to give anybody credit, to be honest. I don't like.
Or maybe the style of play. What kind of style of play do you think is tough? Is it the shorter guy? I think for me, being a smaller guy, when I play against big guys, it was always my quickness, right? I know you're a lot quicker than some of the guys I'm referring to, but I always use my speed around people, right? So some people are like, I don't want to guard that guy. He moves around too much. But
For a big man, I'll say actually one of my teammates, my first year overseas, his name was Tim Blue. Tim is from Florida. He played in Europe for I don't know, I want to say like 12, 13 years, something like that. Well, he was a vet when I got there. And he was athletic, but he was sneaky, right? And he was heftiest guys I've ever played with, man. Pump fakes and step throughs. And then every now and again, he'd take off and dunk on you. He could pick
Kept you on edge.
Yeah, man, you just never knew what you were going to get from him, man. His touch was so good that even if you were there, he just, kind of floated over the top of you, get to his little fadeaway, his step backs, man. He was a good player. He was lefty too.
Yeah.
So he was tough because he was so unorthodox. It just worked. He was a bucket. He was a bucket, man. I'll give it to him.
That's cool. I wouldn't consider myself or put the name bucket for myself, but I am a lefty. So that always kind of bothered people. It was like they never knew I was going to do since I was a lefty. It was kind of adjusted for folks.
The lefty. Coach Bennett's a lefty, I think. So
oh, is he? Yeah, I think he is actually. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, all the time.
That's cool. Some other fun facts I want to dive into with you. I think we touched on a little bit, growing up in Charlotte and seeing the Curry brothers and such. But did you grow up being a Charlotte Hornets fan, or what team did you root for? Or what player did you really look up to?
Yeah, I did watch the Hornets, actually. I did watch a lot of Hornets. David Wesley was like
David Wesley
with the Hornets. Remember David Wesley? I don't remember why, to be honest. He was like, for whatever reason, he was my favorite player on that team. But I didn't really watch the Hornets just because I love the Hornets, right? Like Allen Iverson was probably my favorite, AI with the AI jersey. My dad took me to AI. The Hornets or the Sixers came and played the Hornets. That was the first game I ever went to. And I mean, AI is just legendary, right? Like,
right.
He was the guy that I watched a lot of growing up. Penny Hardaway, Tracy McGrady, kind of those big versatile wings.
Right.
My dad's favorite player was Iceman, George Gervin.
Yeah.
So that was like the way that he taught us how to play, right? Like those big versatile guards. Had a lot to do with like my footwork and some of the versatility defensively that I had. It was just the guys that I watched growing up.
Yeah, when you mentioned about Georgetown being one of the schools that you really eyed in on back in high school, I figured maybe Iverson played a role in that. I know for me, being someone from Virginia, he's from Virginia. I'm a shorter player. He was a shorter guy, and just the grit and just the intensity he brought to the game. It's despite what people say about him, that guy brought his A game each and every night. It doesn't matter if it was a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday playoff. He played the same way every night. So I really applaud him for that. So
every night.
Kudos to you.
Yeah, I wasn't just saying that because of the AI jersey, man. That literally was the first game I ever watched in person. And that was exactly what he told me. It was like, he's the smallest guy on the court. Yeah. But he has heart, and that's all that mattered.
Yeah. I feel the same way. When do you when you think about all the places you've traveled to, whether it be in the States or overseas, this is kind of a personal question for myself as I kind of plan my future trips and vacation. But what's your favorite place to have lived at? And what's maybe a favorite place where you didn't live but visited while playing or just personal?
Oh, man. This is a hard one for me. This is a really hard one. Every city I've been to I've had a ton of luck because every place I've been has been amazing. From the people to the food to just the lifestyle. My favorite would probably have to be Auckland. Auckland, New Zealand was it's different, right? Like we played in the Australian League, so we would fly over to Australia. And, we played in Sydney and Brisbane and Melbourne and, these big cities that everybody thinks of when you think of Australia.
Right.
But I loved coming home. I always loved coming back to Auckland. Like it was just super clean. The people were really friendly. The city was beautiful. The food was amazing. It was very versatile, right? Like you had the Asian influence. You had a lot of European influence. Like it was a really beautiful city, man. I really wish I would have spent more time there. And then the season was, because it's in the South, it was winter time in the North, but summertime there. So we would just go to the beach like after practice, kick it, surfing and all kind of stuff, man. We had a lot of fun that year. It was cool.
So you picked up surfing then? Is that what I heard?
No, I tried to surf. I about died one night surfing, and man, that's the last time I tried it. I promise you that.
I was gonna say that's what it's known for, over in whether it be Hawaii, New Zealand, and Australia, they're known for the surfing. But yeah, I was gonna say I can't get myself to do it. When I see a wave like that, I'm running the opposite way. You don't want to see me out there. But speaking about these different country, I believe you're half Panamanian. You played for the Panama national team as well. How was that experience? And like, what's your tie to Panama?
Yeah. So I was born there.
Oh.
5, and then we came back to the States. Actually, I'd always known I was Panamanian. I just never went back. We never went back. So I didn't have my passport. And actually, my rookie year in the G League, we're playing, and I see this guy has the Panama flag like on his arm, and I go, "Yo, you're Panamanian?" Like, me too. And he goes, "All right, whatever." Like, I don't do and I was like, "All right, cool." And then we didn't talk about it for like months.
Yeah, just left it as that, right? Whatever.
Yeah, we never spoke about it again. I was like, "All right, he doesn't believe me. Whatever. Most people don't." And then one day I get a text like, "Hey, I heard you're Panamanian. Like, what's up?" And it's this guy. He had a connection down there, and they were recruiting for the national team. And at that point, I was, I think I was in France at that point, second or third year out. And I'm like, yeah, I just don't have my passport. Like, I need to come get it. And so I flew down there, got the passport, and then I called him. His name's Tony Bishop. He's one of my best friends now. But I called him like, yo, you didn't believe me, but I'm here. Like, I'll play with you next round. Like, what's up? And since then we've been like blood brothers, man. But Panama is a special place for me, man. It's a special place. I grew up always wanting to go home, and always wanted to have more connection and more ties, because I left when I was a kid. But since I've gone back and gotten a chance to kind of reconnect with friends and even a little bit of family down there, it's been amazing. It'll always be a second home for me.
That's really fascinating. Like I was telling you, I'm gonna be heading down towards that direction tomorrow, so I'm really excited about the warmer weather. That's gonna be my annual thing I'm gonna do when it gets cold up in the States. I'm gonna go somewhere for at least a week or two.
if you ever get a chance to check out Panama, I know I said
I flew into there once. Just flew into there. I don't count that, right? People are like, yeah, I've been there. I was like, you were at the airport, or you actually there? I was just at the airport, but looking out, Panama City looked beautiful. I was telling myself I need to go back.
The city is amazing, but you've got Cologne in the north that has so much culture. Again, the food is amazing. Wildlife and the nature outside of the city is even better. So it's honestly like I'm not just saying that because I'm from there. Like it's the most beautiful part. It's amazing.
I've heard great things, man. So it's definitely on my list. It's definitely on my list for sure. I know it's getting late at your end, so I don't want to keep you up too long. I know we're about like 5-hour difference from, and thanks for reminding me when I initially reached out to you. Like, man, I'm in Germany right now. So I appreciate that reminder.
I was like, man, wait, he wants me on at like 4 a.m. Like, nah.
Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me. But just a couple of things as we kind of just wrap up.
Yeah.
I think you kind of touched on some of the advice you've kind of shared, even for yourself and what you've seen development from the years of high school to the pros. But for someone who is a high school athlete trying to get a Division I scholarship, what's your recommendation for that individual? And then what's the recommendation you give for like a college graduate that's about to go pro?
Yeah. I think it'll be the same. I think it'll be the exact same. I think it's all about a goal, right? Right. Like you're, as a high school student trying to get that scholarship, or a college kid trying to, take that next step to the pros, it's all the same. You're just trying to reach a goal. I think I posted something on my IG the other day, like Jay-Z had this, he's talking about Kobe, right? And how Kobe scoring 61, and then they emulate, you go out to the park and you shoot all the shots that Kobe shot when he made the 61 points, but you don't see the 20 years of work that went into Kobe scoring those 61 points, right? And Jay-Z says it's all about the progress. Like you emulate a lot of people emulate the final result. Yeah. But you got to emulate progress, the steps that he took to get there. That's the only way. That's really the only way. And that's life, man. That's life. If you're ever trying to reach a goal or to achieve something, right, it's never going to happen overnight. And if it does, it won't last. So when you're trying to take that next step, you got to be patient with yourself, and give yourself some leeway, first of all. But you also have to, you got to work. That's the only way. You got to work. And, day in and day out, you might not see the results, but one day you'll look up and you'll be exactly where you wanted to be. One day I looked up and I was holding an ACC championship trophy, and all of that is just because I refused to stop working.
No, I, even though I'm a big Iverson fan, I'm not a Sixers fan, but they said it for a few years. Trust the process, and that's true, right? So I think you hit it on the nail, and you're a testament to that, man. Like you said, you kind of started playing not as young of an age as where a lot of kids do nowadays. I feel like right when kids are walking now, they're playing ball. You didn't start playing on a team until your sophomore year, I think what you said. And and now look where you're at now. Years into the pros, you played NBA, you played G League, you're overseas, killing it. As you kind of think about your future, as you continue embarking your career, what's your goals for as you kind of continue your career, and what's life after basketball look for Akil Mitchell?
Actually, man, I want to take a step back because I didn't make a team. I didn't make a team until I was
until 10th grade, right? Sophomore, yeah.
I got cut. I got cut in 7th grade. I got cut in 8th grade. I got cut in 9th grade.
Oh wow!
And 7th grade, I remember going to my dad. I was a little shorter and really unathletic. I hadn't grown into my body yet, and I went to my dad like, I didn't make the team, and he was like, all right, well, now you have a choice to make. You can either quit, or we can go to the gym every day after school and we can work on the things that you need to get better at. And I did. That's literally all we did from November until August of the next year. We would go to the gym every day. And like I said, I would play against 18-year-olds at 12. I would play against grown 30-year-old men, just shoot and work out and play basketball 3 hours a day. And then I go home and do my homework. And then the 8th grade year, I came back and I got cut again. And it was the same thing. My dad was mad, but he came back after talking to the coach, after giving the coach an earful, and he came back and he's like, you have a choice to make, right? Like, you can either quit or we can double down, right? And so I doubled down. Instead of 3 hours, it became 4. And that became my passion. That was my obsession. And so, again, like, I started late, but it's been an obsession of mine for a long, long time. And that's the thing for me. As I get better and as I continue to grow, and year 8 as a pro now, to answer your question, that's all it's about for me, is just fueling that fire, man. It's the only thing that, I won't say the only thing, but it's one of the things that keeps me going in my pro career. Is I love it. I love the game, bro. I love the game. I love playing, and I love that work. I love putting in the work and seeing myself get better. So I don't really set goals anymore in terms of like monetary goals or what team I want to play more. For me, it's about getting better than I was the year before, right?
Right.
And I want to see my free throw percentage increase. I want to see certain moves that I make every year. I want to see my defensive ratings get better. And when you do that, the rest of it will come. The rest of it will come. I've played on better teams every year because I get better, and that's really all I'm focused on. But after basketball, I'm not sure. To be honest, I'm not sure. I have a couple different options in terms of I've got a pretty solid investment portfolio going now, and I'd like to continue to grow that out. But that'll happen, one way or the other. But we'll see. Maybe one day when I'm sick of basketball, I'll just decide to get a day job. But right now, I can't envision myself putting the ball down.
No, you're too young for that. You're too young for that. You got too much going.
I got a long go.
No, man, when I love to, like, I hear your passion, just like hearing you talk about your experience and what you've been through, and just seeing you as a player on the court. I think for me, the people that really love the game, I think you got to love the game to be at the level you're at now. But when I see good defenders, those are people that really love the game, because when you're a good shooter, it's all excitement, but no one wants to play defense. So you really got to enjoy the game, and that's you, bro. So I hear you 100% on that. And I think one thing just kind of recap on is if it's something that you love, despite all the challenges that you go through, you're going to push forward because you want to do it, not because you feel like you need to. So you're a testament to that, brother.
Man. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, hey, that's all I have from my end. I appreciate it, man. I just want to definitely hear your story. Someone who's a big fan of yours, a huge college basketball pro fan. I remember watching television on the tournament, watching you play, defending the guys, hustling, diving on the ground. And it's cool to know that we have connections even more, just what we talked about earlier with Kalani. Shout out to Kalani. We're from the same town. And Blake, really good friend of mine. We text daily. So that's really cool. But anything you want to share before we wrap up?
Nah, man. Shout out to Kalani. Shout out, what's up, Blake? See you when I get back to Charlotte. Kalani, I'll come up to UVA or wherever you guys are by the time I get home. Who knows? And say what's up. But I appreciate it, man. It's great chatting with you.